Welcome back. Hope everyone is doing well. Today we have an amazing story. The Gemara in Yevamos and Daf Samech Gimel Amud Aleph gives us a glimpse, a rare glimpse into the home of one of the greatest of all the Amoraim. We know of Rav, all of his different disputes, his machlokasim, his arguments with his colleagues. There's Rav and Shmuel, and to a lesser extent Rav and Levi. And we also very often hear about Rav's illustrious son, Rabbi Chia, Rav Chia. And Rabbi Chia also is quoted throughout all of Shas, and we're given a little bit of a window into their home life, into the home life of Rav and Rav's wife, and Rav Chia, obviously where he grew up. And it's not a great story. It's not a story that we would expect. Sometimes we feel, maybe that the Gedolim, that the Tzaddikim, that they also have the greatest marriages, right? There's the story famously of Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, where Rav Shlomo Zalman, right before he would come, I think he was coming into his home, and he, I guess, fixed his hat and his jacket and his tie, and someone said, "What are you doing? You're just going into your house." He goes, "No." He goes, the Gemara says that whenever there's a home where a husband and wife have wonderful shalom bayis, so Shechina shuya beinechem. The Shechina dwells amongst them, and me and my wife, we have wonderful shalom bayis. So it must be that the Shechina is here. So I'm getting ready. The Shechina is going to be there. I'm making sure I look good, or I look respectable. I think they also say that Rosh Shlomo Zalman said at his wife, when he was being maspid, when he was giving a hesped, a eulogy for his wife, that he didn't ask her for mechila because they never argued. That's an amazing thing. They say there's a story of Rav Levin, the tzaddik of Yerushalayim, that when he went to the doctor with his wife, and because I guess she had some foot pain, said, "Our foot hurts." Right? They were so in love. They were so connected. They were mamish like one. Our foot hurts. But that's not the story with everybody. So the Gemara in Gimel, on Samech Gimel Amud Aleph in Yevamos tells us the family life of this like top rank family, this aristocratic Jewish family, this celebrated Jewish family. The Gemara tells us, Rav have a kamitzari le debiso. Rav, his wife would like annoy him, but worse than annoy him, mitzara, like she would aggravate him. How would she do this? Ki amar lo avidi li tlufachay. When he would say to her, "Please, and for dinner, what do you want?" He would say, "Prepare me some lentils, tlufach lentils, of the lechimtze." She would, instead of making him lentils, she would make him chimtze. The art scroll says that that chimtze are some type of legumes, maybe peas. So he would ask for lentils, she would make peas. Or if chimtze, if he would say, "No, you know what? Tonight I want chimtze. Tonight I want peas." Of the late tlufache, she would make lentils. Whatever he asked for, she made the opposite. Okay, ki gadol Chia berei. Once Chia got older, and he obviously saw that the home that he grew up in, the marriage between his father Rav and his mother was not exemplary. So ki gadol Chia berei, when Chia grew up, right, and I guess he would be relaying his father's request to his mother. Apichle v'nafochu lehefech lehipuch. Right? What did he do? He reversed it. To say no. If his father wanted chamtze, let's say, right? So then he would tell his mother, because she knew if I chamtze, they're going to make it lentils. So he would say no. Whatever his father would want, he would say the opposite, and then his father would ultimately get what he wants. Amarle. After he finally realized, and after he kind of realized that his wife changed, she's kind of listening to him, and she's making what he requested. Amarle, he says to Chia, Rav says to Chia, which is such a weird thing, to involve your children in the inner workings of a relationship, of a marriage, is very, very weird. But Amarle, Rav said to Chia, to his son, Your mom is improved. Your mom is getting better. Your mom is treating me more nicely. Your mom is being more respectful for me. Your mom is doing whatever, she's listening to me. right? That's what he's saying to his son. That's such a weird comment. We're not gonna look into that. But your mother is doing better. Amar le. So Chia now responds to his father. You know why? Anna who dekapichnole. I'm the one I'm reversing the requests, right? Whatever you want, I'm saying to my mother that you want the opposite, so that ultimately she's not going to listen, and you're going to ultimately get what you want, right? So Anna who dekapichnole. I'm the one who's switching it over. Amar le. Rav says, Hainu dekar minchi. This is what the people say. This is the popular saying. This is what people say in the streets. Dinafach minach taima malfach. Right? That your child, what comes from you, your child who comes from you, is ultimately going to educate you. Right? And Rashi says that sometimes a person is going to have a kid who's a little bit more of a bar chakim, a little bit wiser, a little bit more, has a little bit of a sharper intellect, and he's going to be able to teach you. So Rav is complimenting his son Chia and saying, right now, this is what people mean when they say that sometimes your kid teaches you more and educates you. But at lo tavid hachi. But you, even though this is awesome, this is great, this is wonderful, you should not do this. Why? Shenemar, as the pasuk says, limdu l'shonam deep daber sheker ha'ava. Because the pasuk in Yirmiyahu says that they would train their tongue, they would train their lishonam, they would train their speech to speak sheker, to speak falsehood. So what's interesting about the Gemara, we're going to do the rest of the Gemara at the very, very end. But here, Rav apparently admires Chia's clever strategy. He thinks it's a good idea. And as he mentions this proverb or this folk proverb about learning wisdom and learning from your children. However, and this is the bigger question, at the same time he instructs Chia to not do it, to cease misreporting to his mother. So let's try to understand. We're going to give about 5 or 6 different answers as to why why he did not want him to do this. Now we need to also understand that lying. We understand that midvar sheker tirchak, that a person should obviously distance themselves from lying, but lying for peace is actually promoted at times in the Torah. The Gemara says there's a famous. It's almost like a cute or funny machlokas. There's a machlokas between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. Tana Rabbanan, the source in Ksubis Daf Yud Zayin. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis teach us. Keitzad merakdim lifnei akala. Keitzad merakdim lifnei akala. How should we dance in front of the kala? What should we say? So there's a machlokas Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai omrim kala kimot shehi. We have to describe the kala. We have to describe the kala kamochi as she is, right? We have to say she's a little bit heavy and she doesn't have a nice smile and she should get her teeth. Her teeth can be whitened a little bit. We have to say kala. We got to call a spade a spade. That's Beis Shammai's opinion. I wasn't invited to so many weddings. Ubeis Hillel omrim kala nova chasuda. Obviously, we paskin kala nova chasuda. So whatever she looks like. She could look like Miss America, that's understandable. So she's a Kala Nova Chasuda. What happens if she looks the farthest thing from Miss America? What? She's still a Kala Nova Chasuda. Everyone explains, okay, in the eyes of the Chassan, she's a Kala Nova Chasuda. But in the end, right, we say, irrespective of her looks, irrespective of whatever we see in front of her, she's automatically a Kala Nova Chasuda. Why? We're going to tell her she's not a Kala Nova Chasuda. We know she's not beautiful. She's not wonderful. Come on, we're allowed to lie to make somebody feel good. We have an even better proof, and that is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. Once God tells Avraham Avinu that he's going to have a child. So the Torah says in Parak Yud Ches, in Parshas Vayera, Avram and Sarah zikenim ba'im b'yamim. Avram and Sarah were both getting into old age, or they were getting older. Chadal yot l'Sarah orech kenashim, and Sarah had reached a time of her life where she is not orech kenashim. Her body is not working like it was in her younger days, and she obviously wasn't able to have a baby. Vatitzchak Sarah b'kirbah, and when Hashem told Sarah, so she laughs. And what does she say? At the end of the pasuk is "Va'adoni zakein." My master, meaning my husband, Avraham Avinu, I'm going to have a child. It's not about me. Va'adoni zakein. Avraham, he's 99 years old. How could he have a child? Then Hashem comes back, and Hashem speaks to Avraham Avinu. Va'yomer Hashem el Avram, lama zeh tzachak Sarah. right? Hashem tells Avram, why is it that Sarah that laughed? Why'd she laugh? Lemor, ha'af umam eled va'ani zakanti. How could I have a baby? God is telling Avraham that Sarah said, how can I, Sarah, have a baby? Va'ani zakanti. So we see here that a person is able to be mishaneh. A person is able to change the truth or change the story mipnei ha-shalom. So if that is true, that a person is allowed to change the story, change the facts, change whatever, in order to keep the shalom, to keep the peace. So what is the issue here? What is the problem where Rav is not excited about, even though he thinks that Chia's advice was great advice, switching the lentils for the peas or peas for lentils, so that ultimately his father would get what he wanted for dinner. So why does he say no, I don't want you to do it. I don't want you to do it. What is the rationale? What is the thinking of Rav? So let's give a couple of answers. The first answer I think is important. The first one is that a lie here and a lie there. This is the answer of the Marsha. Okay, and the Marsha sees that clearly in the pasuk, right? The pasuk. When the pasuk that the Gemara quotes, it says that so that limdu lushonam devar sheker, that you're going to learn to lie, right? So what's happening? It's not a one lie. It's not like you're never allowed to lie. You're going to become a liar. Someone who lies often, a lie here and a lie here, that might be innocuous. That might not make a big deal. But a situation in where Chia would constantly be lying to his mother, as was the case in the Gemara, ultimately is training Chia to live a life of deceit. So while the occasional lie to protect someone's feeling, to say that the Kala is beautiful, to say that Sarah said she was old, not to make Avram feel bad, that will not necessarily have a negative educational impact, right? However, an ongoing pattern of lying, an ongoing pattern of falsehood will. And therefore Rav commands or directs or asks, requests that Chia to stop. And there's a Gemara in Sota that talks about how if someone becomes a habitual liar, then ultimately they're really not going to merit. They're not going to merit to receive the Shechina. And that is someone who's going to be a habitual liar. Liar here, yes, you look beautiful, telling your wife you look beautiful, that the food is good, that you like the shiur, right? That you like the Dvar Torah, that you think the hat looks good, whatever it is. Okay, that's mipnei hashalom. But if you're always doing that, if you're always saying that, then that is definitely not an appropriate approach to live in life, because you're limdu lishonam sheker. You're training yourself to be a habitual liar. You're getting yourself into a pattern of lying, which is never okay. Rav Yaakov Reisher, who is quoted in the Ein Yaakov, in his commentary on the Ein Yaakov, on this Gemara called the Ein Yaakov, he gives a different explanation, which is also, these are all beautiful, and they resonate with me, and I think that they're all really fantastic. That sometimes you have to be careful that you don't lie where the truth is going to come out. Meaning, how long was this story actually taking place? Was it a week that this happened? Was it a month? Was it 6 months? Right? In the end, it's going to happen, right? Where the truth is going to invariably come to light, right? So in that case, if in the end your secret plan is ultimately going to come to light, and now the other side is going to know that you're not telling the truth, so then he says that you shouldn't lie, right? Because the lie is only really going to bring, I guess, temporary relief until the real full truth emerges. And then in this case, his wife, who was being deceived, that's gonna really make the whole marriage worse. That's gonna make the whole situation worse. Because once she realizes that he's really pulling it, that Chia is pulling a fast one, right? So what's gonna happen? She's gonna get more annoyed, and she's gonna aggravate him even more, and she's gonna be more annoying and more difficult. So that's gonna really have a much more negative effect. But that idea, it's not. The idea of that answer sounds like, oh, you should lie if you're going to get away with it, but that's not really what's going on. I think really what the Ein Yaakov is saying is that when you lie, when a person decides and chooses not to tell the truth, you have to be careful that that you don't become caught in this web of lies, that you don't become like caught up in this trap of, okay, now to protect that lie, I need to lie about this, and to protect that, I need to now say that, right? And therefore, I think what the Yaakov is saying is that if we're going to like Kalana v'Chasuda or like Hashem or whatever it is, we have to be judicious about when we're choosing to lie. The Gemara is definitely not promoting lying, right? So the idea here has to be something along those lines of making sure that the lie is not going to ultimately get you in other trouble, meaning you're not going to now have to cover your tracks, and it's gonna come to hurt everybody involved, and especially in the most important relationship a person has in one's life with respect to their spouse, right? That's also why Rav is probably telling Chia, according to the Yaakov, that he shouldn't do it. Let's look at this. The third answer. The third answer is by the Yamshel Shlomo. And he says that he says a similar answer to the Marsha that we began with, but he writes that you're only really permitted for the occasional lie, but a consistent policy of lying is obviously not going to be okay. Now that sounds like the Marsha. The Marsha, remember, he had a chinuch focus. His focus was on Chia, I don't want you to become a habitual liar. So the Shlomo Luria, the Yamshel Shlomo, is saying a different thing. Saying when you have a relationship, and that relationship is built on falsehood, it's built on sheker, it's built on not the truth, right? Then the false, right? The Gemara says you're allowed to change you're allowed to change the truth for shalom. Here, what's happening? It's not shalom. Right? The entire basis of the relationship is built, right? It's not truly repairing the relationship. It's only covering up the fact that the relationship is broken. It's rotten. It's destructive. The occasional lie can be reconciled, right? If you have a healthy and meaningful relationship, but not a lifetime of falsehood, right? So yeah, if you have a wonderful marriage, and your husband says, do you like the new shoes I bought, or do you like the tie? You can say, yeah, fine, sure. Your relationship is not built on that lie. But if your relationship is built on those lies, on those falsehoods, right? And what Rav is saying, he said, you know what, Chia, that's a great idea. You know what? But it's not addressing the issue between me and your mom. Right? I'm not getting into the whole. I work with enough kids and parents to know that getting kids involved is never good, and we'll discuss that later. But what he's telling him is that you think that this is going to cover up the issues and this is going to solve the issues. Not at all. There are the real issues. There are real issues, and we're not addressing those issues with this. And therefore, he tells Chia to please stop and to do it. The Ben Ish Chai on our sheet in the Ben Yoyada also he asks another interesting question in his parish here in the Gemara. He also asks the question. He says, why does Chia tell the truth to his father? Right? Why doesn't he just lie to him as well? Right? Remember, Rav came in and he says, whoa, is your mom's improving her ways? Your mom's getting better. She's a better wife, right? And Chia says, no. The reason you were taken. The reason she's better is because I have this whole chicanery. I have this whole plan that I'm doing. So he explains that the Ben Ish Chai says that what would have been the problem with lying to Rav? He says that not telling Rav would have really led to like major calamity, because Rav, what would have happened? His father would have thought that the whole rift, that the whole problem, the whole broken marriage was all of a sudden repaired, right? That his mother is now is in love with his father once again, and they would return to like things were, right? And they would be intimate with each other physically and also, more importantly, emotionally, right? And if Rav is all into this marriage, he thinks everything is great and everything is better, but the wife is still distant and she's still angry with him for whatever reason, right? She could. That's like they're on two totally different wavelengths. Rav thinks they're up for like marriage of the year, and she's like in this. She feels like she's in this completely broken marriage, right? He understands that Rav, his father, has to know the truth so that his strategy won't like damage his father. If Rav thinks that ultimately Rav is going to be hurt because he's going to be like all into this relationship and she's so not into this relationship, what's going to happen down the line? His son is saying is that I'm making my father too vulnerable. If my father's too vulnerable, he's going to be really, really hurt. So those are the three answers from the classic. We have the first of the Marsha. The Marsha was teaching falsehood. That was more focused on Chia. We have the second answer with respect to you get into this web of lies. If it from the Ian Yaakov, if it's going to come out, so you have to stop it. And then you have the third idea. You have the third idea of the Shel Shlomo that a person shouldn't become an ongoing marriage, an ongoing pattern of lying, because ultimately the whole entire relationship becomes like a chefza, becomes an object of falsehood. But I think we could offer a couple of other answers that I think are important. And one thing is that I guess answer number 4 in our list is that Rav is teaching that it's very, very important that, and hopefully you have a great marriage, so this is not practical at all, but I've seen many where unfortunately children are forced to play some type of intermediary role within the broken marriage of a husband and wife, of parents. And Rav's teaching that children should never be asked to, expected to resolve any tension between parents, right? And even though, and this is very important, even though the child might be the best person, to resolve the issues, right? I guess Rav is saying it's psychologically harmful for children to enter into those, and there's a boundary. There has to be a boundary, which children should never disrespect. Or really, parents should never, the idea that a child is going to get tangled within like marital discord is completely off. And Rav is saying your idea is amazing, but kind of like stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. And that, I think, is very important. It would be amazing if more parents were cognizant of that when they bring their children and they involve their children into their kind of marital discord. Another one is also, I think, important. This was just about dinner, and it almost seems like this was like about the side dish, right? Are we having Brussels sprouts? Or are we having cauliflower? Are we having rice? Or are we having couscous? Right? In the end, really, who cares? So that might be annoying for Rav, right? But Rav might be telling Chia, in a marriage, there you have to take the big issues and not the small issues. No one's perfect, right? No one's perfect. And this might not be justifiable. Peas, lentils, broccoli, cauliflower, that maybe lying is only going to be allowed for something that's really exceptionally important, right? And Rav felt that receiving peas or lentils isn't sufficiently important to justify telling a lie. And obviously all of throughout Pirkei Avos, throughout the Gemaras, truth and shalom is important. Emes is important. Shalom is important. So if we are going to compromise emes for shalom, it has to be for something really, really big. And so, yeah, once again, your idea is great, but it's not big enough. This is not something that is that's big enough to get involved in. And then the last one might be, and I saw this somewhere, I forgot where I saw this, but I do want to present it, that sometimes in a relationship, a person will act out consciously or subconsciously because they feel slighted or marginalized or, pushed away for some reason. Now, it could be that in this sefer, Rav was very, very poor. And the author writes that Rav might have understood that his wife, right, once again, either consciously or subconsciously, was resentful of their poverty, and that this ultimately generated her habit of refusing to serve him. Like that's how she exercised her upsetness. That's not the right word. That's how she showed off that she or generated her refusal to give him what he that was her her revolution or her rebellion, right? And Rav might have said, you know what, this is okay. If she's going to quote unquote speak her mind in this sort of way, with this sort of, in his mind, I guess, a benign outlet for her, how she her resentment, in order that ultimately every other area of our life can function appropriately. So maybe this was okay, and maybe Rav was teaching really an essential lesson to Chia, right? I would say it's probably an essential lesson to Chia that really for all couples to learn that you know. In marriage, that we always have to maintain some type of perspective and not be bothered by things, by I guess small things that might irritate us, because ultimately they might be part of a bigger picture. And I think that we could say that Chia learned that. And I also would say that probably now, listen, we know that in raising kids, there's no secret sauce and there's no perfect ingredients, right? Chia was a tremendous tzaddik. So this might have been the only issue in their marriage that was like weird or off or broken or not humming, right? Because ultimately to create a Chia, to raise a Chia, it's hard to imagine that from a completely broken home you could have an amazing Amora. So let's finish off. And the Gemara then says a related story with respect to Chia and his wife. And we're back on the third line, or the third little paragraph at the first source in the Gemara. Rabbi Chia hava kamitzare ledeviso. The exact same line as we opened up with respect to Rav. Right? Rav's wife annoyed him, aggravated him, irritated him. So too Rabbi Chia's wife, right, irritated him as well. Nevertheless, whenever he was in the market, whenever he was in the mall, when he would find something that she would like, he would find whatever. It could be flowers, it could be jewelry, it could be clothes, whatever. What would happen? He would wrap it up in his sweater, in his scarf, in some type of cloth or shawl or whatever, and he would wrap it, he would buy it, he would wrap it up, and he would bring it to her. Rav, his father, saw that his son Chia would do this, he saw that his wife is that his daughter-in-law is bothering and not giving whatever it is, peas, carrots, whatever exactly it was. But still, Reb Chia's son was getting her flowers every Shabbos, or was getting her whatever. So Amalei Rav says, why are you doing this? Doesn't she annoy you? Doesn't she aggravate you? Why are you showing her such affection? Amalei, Reb Chia said, Dayenu. Right? We're now. It's important to say Dayenu. We're almost at Pesach. Dayenu shemigadelas banenu. It's enough. It's sufficient. That she raises our children, umatzilos osanu menachet, and she saves me from chet. She raises my children. She saves me. She saves me from chet. The chet is obviously that because he has an outlet physically, intimately, sexually, so therefore he's not gonna sin on his own, and he is grateful for that. I would say that what the Gemara here is teaching us, perhaps, is maybe that he learned a little bit of the lesson from his father, but also that in marriages and in a union, in any marriage, right? Very few marriages are perfect, and you have to appreciate what the other person is doing for you and what they do. And everyone has to overlook, right? My wife didn't marry Mr. Perfect. I might have married Miss Perfect, but no one's perfect, right? And we all have to override or there's one of my favorite quotes is I love someone, I like someone because, and you love even though. You like because, I like this person because we're both into sports, we're both into, we both like to travel. But I love even though. And that's a very, very powerful idea. It's a very, very powerful quote, I believe. And perhaps that's what Rabbi Chia is teaching, right? That I love her, even though she does so much for me, and I'm grateful for that, and I appreciate that, and I'm able to love even though. So a lot of different lessons. An amazing Gemara. It's also amazing that the Gemara feels the need to tell me this story. That the Gemara is raw. It's open. It's honest. It says it says the great things of everyone. And some of these stories are like, holy cow, how could a person be so angelic? And then maybe their home life isn't as perfect as we thought it would be. But an amazing Gemara, an amazing story, and I think some really, really beautiful insights into Rav and his wife's marriage, as well as why Rav told Chia that even though he had great advice to desist and to stop and to cease doing that. Everyone have a great, great week.